Hello, everyone. My next guest runs a successful website called My Car Heaven, where he brings to his audience the love and passion for cars, past and present. Supercars, classic cars, and everyday cars. He has a website called My Car Heaven. He shares his passion for cars, which you'll find the link in my show notes. Please welcome Wynn from My Car Heaven. Will, how are you and where are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, just at home today. Just been giving one of the cars a nice clean this morning.
Yeah.
As we do as petrol heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to having a chat with you.
Yeah. So whereabouts in the country are you, roughly?
Just in between Reading and Heathrow.
Okay.
So sort of Thames Valley area.
Okay. And is this car, My Car Heaven, how long has it been going for?
Several years. I can't remember the exact time I started. Life, as you know, just moves at a frantic pace. But I think roughly 2010, 2011, 2012, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. And what made you start it off?
Passion, really, I suppose, for cars. I mean, I'm a workaholic. I've run a couple of successful recruitment businesses, and just decided that, what am I going to do with any spare time that I have, which isn't a lot when you've got kids, a wife, and running a company. And cars was my thing, really. So I love driving cars. I'm more interested in the aesthetics than I am the engineering. So just thought I'd start writing about the cars that I love, the cars that I desire, just interesting car stuff. And then from there, we led on to going to lots of car shows, which I've attended most car shows in the UK now. And from there, just my interest, passion, what I'm doing, cars I'm interested in, meeting other interesting car people like yourself, where you just talk and natter and et cetera. One thing's led to another.
So what are you into? What's your favorite thing that you like to go to or look at? What's the car or bike?
I think if you looked at the cars that I have now rather than the cars I had, and the cars I'm interested in, I'm pretty interested in the unusual, the rare, the unique, similar to probably the music that I listen to and things that I'm into generally in life. I like the more obscure. I don't like being as part of the general population. Everyone likes pop music. That's not me. Everyone likes a Ford, Escort or Mondeo and stuff. That's not me. I like the rare, the unusual. And I suppose that's when you're growing up, you sort of, if you get into cars, you supercars and hypercars are the things that you dream about. And I think when I was young, you had the Testarossa on the wall and the Porsche 959 and Lamborghini Countach and all that sort of stuff, because they were just like, wow. But as you get older, I think you get a respect for history, and a lot of the old cars really do stand out now. So when I go to two of my favourite events are the Concourse of Elegance at
Hampton
Court now. And obviously they've got the London Concourse as well, and also Salon Privé, which is a little bit more exclusive. It's quite an expensive event to go to. But the cars you get there and the collectors, in terms of what the cars that they bring, is just a whole different level to the normal car collector. The more money you've got, the more you can buy the rarer cars, can't you?
I've was you at the Concourse of Elegance this year then?
Yeah. We go every year.
What day did you go on that?
We went on the press day.
Okay.
I think that was the Thursday or the Friday. Can't remember which day.
Okay, I was there on the Sunday, which was the junior concourse thingy that they were doing. And so, I go every year. I've been going, I think it's only been going about 6 or 7 years, hasn't it? But it was at different palaces for every year for a while. And then all of a sudden, the last 3 years, it's been at Hampton Court, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I haven't been to Salon Privé yet. I haven't been to that.
But it's changed. It's changed over the last couple of years because it used to be an exclusive event, and the Bagley brothers have realised that maybe there's an opening there for the general public to come. So I think over the last 2 to 3 years, they've had like a supercar day.
Yeah.
On the Sunday. I've not really been involved in that, if I'm honest. But I think that's generally open to the public at a lower cost. So I think a Salon Privé ticket is circa £200 for the day. And then for most people, that's unattainable.
Yeah.
Or unjustifiable. But now they've got a ticket for 20, 25 quid or whatever it is for the last day or the last couple of days. So I think that's a good thing, and it's gone from success to success. But I normally go to Salon Privé on the first or second day, because normally that's when they have the Concourse event where they judge, and then they also, if you look at my YouTube channel, you'd see we generally put a lot of videos on there where they talk about the cars, which you can't really get. You can get from a book maybe, but it's not as, for me, it's not as enthralling as actually hearing from the owner, or, you normally have a compere like Max Garado, who's well known, and he's very clued up on the cars. And it's always nice to hear experts talking about these cars. Yeah,
of course it is, yeah. And that's why I go to those events, really. I've been trying to get my father-in-law to come with me, because he knows most people in the industry from a mechanics point of view, engineering point of view. He just won't come. He won't come to these events. He's very old-fashioned. He doesn't want to talk to people. He's just he's Sicilian. He's quite grumpy, but not with people he knows and loves, but with if there's a Ferrari sitting there and people are talking about the car, he's not interested in listening, because he knows the stuff. He just doesn't want to spend time talking to strangers about cars that he's worked on since he was, I don't know, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
I've tried to get him on this podcast, and I will get him on eventually. But he's a master. I mean, one time he was changing my brakes on my car, and we had to have a special tool to change the brake caliper on. I think it was on the rear. And he says to me, "Have you got a piece of metal or wood?" And I says, "Yeah, there's some in the back of the garage there in the workshop." I'm going to go and make a cup of tea. Come back in half hour. He's made a tool to fit on. And I'm asking my wife, I'm saying, where was your dad born? In like Harry Potter's castle or something? Like, what's going on here? Like, how do you even come to that? But yeah, he's a special mechanic. And a couple of years ago, actually, at the Concourse, I was chatting to, I was in the ice cream queue to get an ice cream, because I like my ice creams, and there was an ice cream man there. And I heard an engine, a V12. It sounded like a Ferrari, but it wasn't. It was another car, start up. And I looked at my wife and I said, "Come on, let's go quick. Forget the ice cream. Let's go and see this car." And the guy in front of me said, "Oh," I said, "that might be a Ferrari." And he said, "No, it's not Ferrari. It's Bizzarano or something. Bizzarini. Yeah. And he started telling me about the car. I said, how do you know about this car?" I said, "I've been looking after it for the last 20 years. I said, "Okay." I said, "What are you then? What would you do?" He said, "Well, I'm a Ferrari specialist." I said, "You must know my father-in-law, Tony Montalbano." And he went, "Yeah." He was my colleague at Maranello's. I was like, "What?" I was chatting to him for about an hour. My wife was bored standing there, but
yeah,
they come up with the stories. They come up with not celebrity stories, because everyone wants to hear those, but I like to hear stories of how cars changed hands and where they've been, like the what's that, is it 3,000 mile? So you've got the Gumball. What's the Italians one of that? The Miglia.
Yeah.
I like to hear those stories of people breaking down at the side of the road and what they did to fix it. And I love I love cars since I was knee high, really. I just love cars. And I've been going to all the British motor shows for the last, and the Dubai ones, because I go Dubai a lot, for now on, I don't know, 30 years probably. Because Dubai have a classic car show. You wouldn't think they got classic cars because all you can see there is supercars.
Right.
But I actually absolutely love their classic car shows. They do it at a horse race stadium, so it's a massive, massive site. And you go there, and you've got the low riders, the ones with the air suspension bobbing up and down. I pretty much love everything that moves, you know, including steam trains and steam tractors. I love all those sort of things. But my thing is classic cars and supercars, and I like the German stuff more than the Italian stuff. I do like the Italian stuff. The old German Porsches and BMWs and Mercedes, they generate a spark inside me. Some of the old Lancias.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. You know, I just think they're well engineered, right? They've been well thought out when they were designed, and they lasted this much time. They're still going. I think somebody told me at the Porsche Museum I went to the Porsche Museum a few years ago, and they said to me that every single Porsche that was ever made, you could still get parts for.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that's a fact that they're still manufacturing the parts, or whether they've just got them shelved, like Ford, for example, I don't know whether you know this, but Ford Motor Company have every single car parts in their archive. So let's say the very first Escort that came off the production line, I think they made 3 or 4 of them, and they just shelved 3 or 4 of those parts on the shelf. They're sealed, no one can ever touch them, they won't sell them, they're just there. And so, I mean, I guess I like everything, but what I like is like the old 356 Porsche, for example.
Yeah.
I'm toying with the idea at the moment of whether I should buy an original, which is quite expensive.
A lot of money.
Yeah. Or should I just get a Volkswagen Beetle chassis, cut it down, rebody it, do all that, because then that'll give me the flexibility of the whole, what I can have inside, what interior, where I can have the gear shifter. I can play with a lot of stuff then. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not a Ferrari fan, to be honest, only because Enzo Ferrari was a very shrewd operator, and you know, you had to be in that day. But for me, it's about, you're making cars for the public, right? So I'm going to go on a bit of a rant now, but it's like the way he spoke to Lamborghini. I mean, we wasn't there, so we don't know, but stories suggest that he was very rude to Lamborghini, and he was very rude to people who didn't have a lot of money to buy the car. So if I was a young man and I'd saved 10 years to buy a Ferrari, and I said I wanted an F50, I don't think you could just go and buy an F50 from Ferrari. I think you had to own an F40. And to own an F40, you had to have the previous model. And I think that sort of branding is a little bit crazy. You know, there's stories.
But would you not think that that's the same with any marque? I mean, if you basically bought a Porsche 959, you're probably going to be up the list when you want to buy a 918, aren't you? You're going to be more known to the dealership. You're going to be more known to the manufacturer. You know, unfortunately, in the life we live, money does talk, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. I think that's it. I mean, I just don't like the stories that you hear. Like, so for example, there's another one where I've got a friend at work. So I design spacecraft, and he sits right next to me. He's Italian, Northern Italian, and he worked for Ferrari for a number of years, and he was told, I think on his contract, it did say that if he had enough money, he wouldn't be able to buy a Ferrari unless he left the company. I'm like, why wouldn't you want your staff to drive your cars? What's that? You know, it's a little bit. I mean, when you look at like Airbus Daimler, for example, they have some sort of a share in Mercedes Daimler, or something's going on there. But a lot of their top end staff, they have Mercedes AMGs. They actually give them Mercedes AMGs. They don't have to buy them; they give it to them. Yeah. And every year, Airbus in Germany will do a competition for a graduate, which is around about 21, 22 years old. And whoever wins the competition gets AMG SLR for a year, free.
Nice.
And things like that, you think to yourself, that's the way you should be promoting a company. I mean, Ferrari do very, very well on sales from what I've seen. Lately, I don't like their later stuff. I like the older kind of 80s, the Testarossas, the 512s, the old V12s and the old V8 Ferraris are absolutely stunning cars.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I probably would never buy a Ferrari. If I was going to go for that sort of car, I'd probably buy a Lamborghini, probably.
Yeah, but I think the one thing I would say, being a businessman and having met lots of successful people, I think you'll probably find that more than 50% of the top businessmen or entrepreneurs are very challenging people. They're challenging personalities.
Yeah.
You know, because they know what they want. They don't want to waste their time because they're busy people. And so they have that privilege, or they don't have that. It's very difficult, I suppose. When I was leading a company, and I've had a company with 70 staff, and you don't get a lot of people talking to you at your level.
Yeah.
I don't mean that you're better than them. I just mean because you're so high up the ladder, and maybe you're quicker or smarter, or you have a different brain way of thinking.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of people challenging you. So it's not used to having conversations with people where you'll be challenged because they don't want to challenge the boss.
Yeah.
And I think with Enzo Ferrari, I mean, I would love to have met the guy.
Oh yeah.
But I think he wasn't challenged. You know, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in the Italian culture. As you said, is it your
my father-in-law?
Wife's dad. You know, he'd probably know better, but I get the impression that there's a lot of pride in the Italian culture, and you know, you don't question, and you know, you have respect for your elders. We should all do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't judge a mark. I mean, I have a Ferrari, and I do like Ferrari as a brand, and I think as all brands, it's probably the one mark that I would go for. I'm probably the opposite of you. Whereas, although I've got a couple of Porsches in my garage, they're not mine, and I've got a friend who's a Porsche owner, he loves Porsches. I don't get it. I don't get 911s because they all look, like Clarkson says, they all roughly look the same. Yes, they're an everyday car, great, but do we buy supercars to drive them every day? You know, so Porsche is not really my thing. I do like the 959. I do like, you know, the GT3 and GT2s, 911s, and you know, like you said, the speedsters and things like that. I think they're quite cool cars. And I was contemplating getting a Chesil Speeder. I know that would be a bad thing to say to some Porsche lovers, but just if you get by a Chesil Speedster, it's £20,000, and you can drive it all the time, and you're not going to be worried about the value going down, are you?
Yeah. What engines have they got? Volkswagen?
I'm not sure. I think so. I think they're like 1.6 litre. I'm not sure. I don't think they've got there won't be like a Volkswagen Beetle engine. It'll be like a newish engine, but I'm not quite sure, to be fair. I've not really looked into that, but I have a bit of time for those reproduction cars, same as I was very close prior to COVID-19 breaking out. I actually put a deposit down for an AC Cobra in March. Hang on,
not original one, or
no? I was going to say £1 million. No, but it was an unusual one because it was a hard top, and it was based on a Le Mans winning AC Cobra, so it was a nice car. but very raw. And I like those cars that are raw. I'm not into cars with sat nav and radios and all the other bits that you need to have. I like cars to drive them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Which probably brings us on to the electric car, which, the electric car for me, it's not really for me. An everyday car, like the wife taking the kids to school and your everyday chores. Electric cars I get. But if I'm going to go out today, at the weekend, or going to go for a 100-mile blast, electric car is the most pointless thing in the world to me.
Yeah.
It's like I drove the i8 a couple of years back on a testing day around Millbrook.
Yeah.
And Millbrook testing track is where James Bond famously rolled his Aston Martin DBS, in what was that? Casino Royale.
Yeah.
So I drove it around the hill track, but it just kept driving, and I was driving around, and obviously with the i8 you've got full electric mode, and then you've got hybrid mode.
Yeah.
And I was driving electric mode, and I thought, this is nice, but all you can hear is the tyres. Obviously didn't have the radio on.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I put the window down and put the hybrid mode on so I could hear some form of engine.
Yeah.
And even now when I'm contemplating buying a sort of a nice-ish car, I'm thinking, do I go for Aston Martin DB9, or do I go for BMW i8, or do I go for a Maserati Gran Turismo? And I'm veering towards the petrol cars because they just make me feel like I'm alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
you can feel it.
Whereas with the electric cars, it just feels like you're moving, but it's a bit surreal. But maybe that's just us getting used to electric cars.
Well, look, I just think going on to this whole 2030 ban on petrol and diesel cars coming from Boris Johnson, I nearly fell over when I turned the TV on and I saw that headline. I was like, so Rishi Sunak is trying to do £1.50 per mile in London. He's trying to charge people that. They're trying to expand the congestion zone up to 17 times. It's 17 times what it is now.
Right.
And then Boris has come out with this 2030 ban on petrol and diesel cars. So I'm sitting there thinking, what's this going to do to classic cars? And then very quickly realised that they would probably never salvage or crush the classic cars, but you will get a lot of classic cars being handed in for scrap, like you did the last time. A few years ago, I remember a friend of mine said to me, there's a scrapyard at the back of his house, and every day he sees classic cars coming in. And so I drove down there and I met with the guys that owned it, and they're a little bit rough, metal, scrap metal dealers are not, let's say, they weren't Oxford graduates.
Well done.
And they were like, yeah, what can we do for you? And I said, well, can I buy some of these cars? And they were like, no, you can't buy them. And I thought they were going to say to me, you can't buy them because the government have, they've secured them and they want them off the road. No, we enjoy crushing them, was the answer. I just went like that and walked away. I couldn't even believe it. It's just one of those things. And I think that's going to happen again in 2030 in a big way. I think it's going to be a massive, massive cull of classic cars, and I hope not. But what do you think? What do you think the price is going to be? Do you think it's going to lower the prices or up the prices on classic cars?
I think you got to define a little bit the classic cars that you're talking about there, because let's be clear, I don't think you're talking about Lancias, which there aren't many of already. I don't think you're talking about Ferraris and Porsches and things like that. If you're talking about cars that are 20, 25 years old, which is what we could define as a classic car, maybe some Saabs and some Volvos and some of those cars that people are using as runabouts now.
Yeah,
I think that's what you're referring to, and correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that's what happened with the last incentive. Remember, this is not, at the moment, we don't have, as far as I'm aware, any incentive to get rid of these cars. All they're saying at the moment is that at 2030, let's assume that that can even happen, but by 2030, all the manufacturers cannot make petrol cars or diesel cars unless they're a hybrid. And if they're a hybrid, they could last, they can go to 2035, and then hybrids won't be allowed. All that's going to mean is that people who are driving their cars now, like my wife drives an Audi Q7, they're not going to be making a petrol version or diesel version of that, you know, in 10 years' time. I think unless the government incentivizes people, like they do in Norway, to buy an electric car. I mean, in Norway, you don't pay VAT on buying an electric car. You get 50% off parking. You know, there's lots of things that they do to incentivize you. And Norway, don't quote me on it, but I think Norway is one of the best countries in the world in terms of having electric cars. Yeah. But I think that's what happened last time around. We talk about cars being scrapped. The government was giving, was it £1,000 or something towards, or some money towards buying an electric car, which, you know, let's be honest, if you said to everyone in the UK, right, there'll be no VAT on electric cars, or we'll give you £1,000 or £2,000 or £5,000 for scrapping your existing car. Yeah. Well, if you've got a car like I have, a Lexus, that is probably worth £4,000 or £5,000, you think, well, actually, should I scrap that in and buy an electric car? You know, and that's what will do it. But it's difficult to know what the impact of that 2030 target will have. I mean, obviously the manufacturers have already stated, you know, that's giving us 10 years to close our business models and move straight over to electric cars. Many of them are doing it already. I think most manufacturers have at least one electric car or hybrid in their stock of cars. Yes. But obviously you're talking about these big companies. I mean, I don't know for sure, but say Jaguar Land Rover, if you're then saying, well, the whole of your manufacturing plant has to change to now a different chassis and a different makeup of the car, well, that's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of cost. Yeah. You know, and if you're looking at right now today, I think the global situation because of COVID-19, it's going to take 2 to 3 to 4 years for us to recover. And a lot of these companies haven't made money for 6 to 12 months and have been running on the fumes of their bank balance or taking loans. So I think it's a very challenging time. I don't really know what the government are doing, to be fair, you know, because it seems like, especially in the UK, that the government, and I don't blame any particular party, because whether it's Tories or, I'm not really into that, you know, political pointing fingers. It just seems bizarre that, you know, we already are probably one of the highest taxed countries for petrol. We pay, or gas, as the Americans would call it, you know, 58p at the moment we're paying for petrol. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And then we're talking about this 2030, you know, banning cars. Well, what about all the trains, planes and boats that kick out emissions? You know, it says, you know, if you're in a car, I was reading today that it said if in a car, assuming you've got 4 people in the car, and how many times do we drive a car with 4 people in it? You know, an average car will kick out 55 grams of CO2. A plane will kick per person, and a plane will kick out 285. So almost 5 times more, 6 times more. You know, so, you know, if it was me and I was running the country, and I often joke to my wife that probably that's what I should do, I would have basically tried to find a way of all buses, all trucks, because trucks obviously do a lot of driving, and all planes. I mean, you work in the aero industry, but, you know, can we make them more efficient? Can we make them electric? Yeah. You know, and then when you're talking about kicking out CO2, what about all the, you know, power stations around the globe? We did an article on My Car Heaven this week, actually, about this very very situation. And I probably went off cars into my environmental viewpoint, because I'm quite an environmental person. Although I love cars, that is probably my one bad environmental thing. But we recycle as a family. We try not to use plastic. We do all the things that we should try and do. This week I've started getting my wife off coffee pods to biodegradable coffee pods. Just trying to be a little bit better for the planet we live on, because there's definitely issues that we all face with the population of people we now have on the planet. From my perspective, I'm not quite sure we're going about it the right way. You've got China that kicking out 25% of CO2 emissions for the planet, and the USA of 15%. So that's 40%, just those two countries. So why, as a species, why are we not getting together and saying, as a species of human beings, let us just stop doing X, Y, or Z? And everyone's got to sign up to it, because at the moment it seems like every country says, well, it's my country, we'll do what we like. In America, because of Trump coming in and getting all "we love America" mantra, and their air pollution's getting worse and not better. I think China got a ridiculous amount of coal-fired plants, but from what I read today, prior to this podcast, they're trying to now think of other ways of reducing the smog that they're now getting in all of their cities, because it's pretty much, it's like the Industrial Revolution in the UK. Look back in history and look at the smog we had, and it was because of coal-fired plants. But the UK's only got 1% of global CO2. So it seems a little bit ludicrous. I know that we shouldn't bury our heads in the sand. And I would like our country always, because I'm proud to be British, and I would like us to be leaders of certain things, just like I think we are in Formula One and other things around the globe. We've got a good reputation, but I just sometimes think we go about it the wrong way. It's like a token, just to appease people. We put up loads of air turbines, but now we've ruined the countryside.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I think, well, I don't want to go too political and too kind of, you get all these stories about why people are doing it, but I do think that, we have got global warming. We have got that as one of the satellites that I designed years ago is showing now that the ozone layer is starting to deteriorate at a faster rate than we assumed it to be. But you're right. I just don't understand the whole why they're not going down the planes. There is a push for aircraft to be powered by something other than oil and fuel, but they won't get the range at the moment. You can't have the range. It's similar to the cars, really. I don't know what Tesla does, but Tesla's probably one of the most rangiest cars, I think, out there. Some of these supercars, the hyper supercars and the supercars that are full electric, you're only getting 15 miles out of them. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I'm going to go down the road to the shops and then charge it for 3 hours before I come back. Can't do that. We are looking at spacecraft being powered by non kind of rocket fueled fuel. So we're looking at that at the moment. I don't know enough about it to explain, but they are looking at nuclear power for spacecraft as we speak, which I always think is quite dangerous, because what you don't want is nuclear power flying around. Because if it crashes into another spacecraft up there, we're going to have a massive leak. But I guess the thing with it all is let's hope that the classic car industry is unaffected by it. And I've set a task now to buy as many classic cars as I can before 2030, because I think it's going to be difficult to buy them after that. I just think.
No, I don't think so. I think if anything, I was actually going to say that classic cars and petrol cars would probably go up in price. Yeah, because I'm talking about the nice ones. You know, I don't think like the everyday car will go up in price, because I think, like I said, everyday cars just to get you from A to B, and whether you believe there'll be an autonomous car at some point, I can't necessarily in my lifetime, which I hope will be another 30, 40, 50 years. But I just don't see that. But I don't know. I think you know, because I think petrol cars will always be desired by those into classic cars. I mean, like some people who get classic cars have to put additives, you know, into their cars and etc., just to keep them going. And I've got an old Lancia from 1970, and it was taken to the garage this week, and it's been there for 2 weeks because they couldn't work it out. They couldn't work out what to do, and they thought that the head gasket had gone, and then they phoned the Lancia expert, and they said no, that's just normal for that car, you know. So I think you'll still get a highly, I think it's like, you know, the stuff up at Bicester, and if you look at the classic car world that we now have, there's loads. It's just gone nuts over the last 10, 15 years. And that's indicative of prices you see as well. You know, you could pick up a Miura for 200, 300 grand probably 10 years ago, and now they're $1 million, $1.5 million. You know, there's so much desire and passion for these cars. So I think you're right in that I think a lot of petrol cars are the everyday cars, and like your Volvo XC90s and all that sort of stuff, they'll all be changing to electric. So as these cars die away, or get to their 100, 150 miles, they'll sort of drop off the radar, and people will be going to the next version, which will be electric, because they can see what's coming. So those cars, I think you're right, but I think also, I can't speak for you, but you know, when I'm looking to buy a car, so if I was looking to buy a Ferrari, for example, or a Porsche or a Lamborghini, it's unlikely I'm going to be buying it at the brand new level, you know, because I haven't got 200 or 300,000 pounds sitting in the bank. And, you know, so I'm going to wait till it drops to 50%, 60%, and then buy it at that. And I think that will still be the case with these. So I can't afford an XC90, for example. So I'm going to wait until someone's going to trade that in for the electric, and then I'm going to buy the XC90. It's currently 20 grand, but now because of the timing, maybe it's 2018, 2019. And it's petrol, but so there'll always be people, and because people are still buying them, there'll always be the garages to fix them. And I think at the moment you've got, I mean, the biggest challenge, and I'm not sure if 2030 will happen. Where there's a will, there's a way. So it will definitely happen if we want it to. Just like we're getting this, you know, vaccine for COVID. If you want to get something to happen, more resources, more money you put behind something, the more we can make it happen. But I just don't see with the electric stuff at the moment. You've got all the manufacturers got to change. Again, still for me, if I bought an electric car, I like getting in a car and not having to worry where I'm driving and where I need to charge up, or where I need to think about getting petrol. But I can get petrol everywhere. But if I go in, if I bought an i8, and one of the things I was thinking, i8, lovely car, love the design, I think it's cool looking, blah, blah, blah. Not a massive BMW fan personally, but, you know, I think, well, hold on a minute. If I'm going to go up to Birmingham, how much charge have I got, and where am I going to stop? And then how long do I have to stop? And as a person who doesn't have much time, I am always got 27 hours worth of work to do every day. So I'm going to think, hold on a minute, where am I going to charge? And I've got to wait for 30 minutes, an hour to charge up a car. What am I going to do then? I'll just sit around twiddling my thumbs. You know? So that's the sort of stuff that annoys me. And I think Chris Harris once said it, and it rang true with me. Which is like, I've worked hard not to live on a terraced road, but loads of us do live on terraced roads. So if you live on a terraced road, how are you going to charge up your car?
You can't. You can't. You're going to have. Well, the only way
you have a cable coming out of the house.
That's it. So
and I'm not being funny. All the dodgy people will probably come and unplug it and then start charging up their phones.
Especially in London. I mean, I just don't think they're going to have the infrastructure to implement that many electric cars being bought after 2030. I might be wrong, but you know, we can't even sort out Hammersmith Bridge. You know what I mean? It's been shut for years and nothing's been done. No work's been done on it. We can't even do the track and trace properly. You know, and that's something basic. You know, it's not hard to do it. It's just getting the man hours and putting the time in and having the right people in the right place at the right time to think about how we're going to do things. So we'll see what happens. So what do you think of the hybrid car market and the hypercar kind of like the new Koenigsegg's and things like that coming out?
Yeah, I mean, just so you know, my history. I bought when we had our children, which was 2006. I actually bought one of the first hybrid cars, and I'm sure there's plenty of car people out there that would say I'm wrong, but I don't claim to be an expert in everything. But I bought the Lexus RX 400h SEL, which is the top model of the Lexus SUV. It's not a four-wheel drive, but it's the best car I've ever owned. Best car I've ever owned. I've only had 3 or 4 things go wrong with it in 14 years. It's now done 130,000 miles. Yeah. Just had a blowout, unfortunately, on the motorway with my mum driving it. But apart from that, it's been perfect, and it's still to this day got the best sat nav, still got the best and the fastest heated seats. So I've got nothing negative to say about Lexuses at all, and I think the hybrids, supercars and hypercars, though, I'm not overly sure and convinced. Again, I suppose if you ask the top people in those companies, what's given carte blanche, you can make anything you want, unlimited resources, would they go and make a hybrid? Yeah. And I don't think they would. No. I think it's maybe a PR exercise. You know, I mean, obviously I'd like to drive these cars. I don't think there's any reason why I wouldn't want to own one. But if you look at the Porsche 918 and the Ferrari LaFerrari and any other car you can list to me, again, if I was buying in the buyer's market and I had £1 million, which is what most of these cars cost at that supercar, hypercar level, I'm probably maybe like you, is I would rather use that £1 million to maybe go and buy 3 or 4 cars that are probably from the 60s, 70s, 80s. That they're not going to be as good cars from a technology perspective, but they stir up nostalgia. Yeah, that they make me look at it and smile, you know. And I think sometimes, unless you've got so much money, and I come across some of these people at car shows, you've got so much money that it doesn't really matter. You're earning more interest in it than it costs to buy these cars. Yeah. Then a lot of these cars sit in their garages and they're just pieces of art. They don't get used a lot. Yeah. You know, and again, I was speaking to the marketing manager at My Guy Heaven about the new 4-seater Concourse that we saw at Salon Privé, and you know, I just don't get it personally. No, I mean, I'm not being funny. I've got children, and I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. So years ago, I would have jumped out of a plane, do a bungee jump. Nothing really scares me. But right now, I wouldn't think of, let's go in a drive in my 4-seater hypercar and let's go up to 250 miles an hour with my children in the car. Absolutely not. Yeah, no, you wouldn't. I'm capable as a driver. I've got a motor racing license. And I think I'm pretty okay as a driver. Yeah. But it's not. But what happens if a deer runs out into the road? What happens if a motorbike comes down a corner? You just can't predict what's going to happen. So I just don't see the point of, you know, the Lamborghini Urus and all that stuff. That's just appeasing or giving options to people with more money than sense. Yeah. So what's your go-to brand then? If I said to you stick to one brand, what would it be? I think it would probably have to be Ferrari. And then the reason being is I'm more into, like what you said, I'm more into the old Ferraris. Yeah. You know, when the 599 came out, and it is a car that I would consider getting, it's just so big, so long, so wide. And I think a lot of those Ferrari V12s, probably not from the Daytona, but past the Daytona from the 60s, I think a lot of them started getting big and fat, and yes, they're still fast, but they're almost like a lot of cars now seem to be a sofa with wheels on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think I'm just thinking, would Enzo, would he have actually, if he was brought back to life now, would he look at some of his cars and think, what on earth is that?
Yeah.
And I think he probably would on some of them, because it was about racing and having cars. If you think about the F40 was the last car that he was involved with, and that's stripped out. Chris Harris said on Top Gear a couple of weeks ago, still to this day is one of the best cars ever made. And that's the sort of my car. That's the car that I want. I want a stripped out, no anything in it, nothing in it other than the steering wheel. I don't want any ABS. I don't want anything that's going to make me feel like I'm a supercar, a super driver. And, a lot of these people who say, oh, I'm a good driver. It's like, well, you've got every single aid on your car to make you feel like you're a superhero. Right? Take them all off, right? And then try driving. Yeah. And then you'll find out how good you are. And you always hear about people buying their first supercar coming out of the dealership, and then about 5 miles later they crashed it. So I think Ferrari would be mine, but I think the history, the story behind it, and going back to what you said earlier about Enzo and maybe a difficult person, don't you think that Henry Ford would have been a difficult person? If you watch the movie the recent movie about 1966, they were all difficult people, these owners, these big people with more money, owning stuff. They were dictators in business, and they were always difficult. And if you didn't say the right thing, you got fired, And I think it's a nice story to think, oh, a Lamborghini, and he left and he put his fingers up at Ferrari and stuff. Yeah, that's all good. And Lamborghini is my sort of brand because I like extreme, and most of their cars are extreme. If you look at that Countach and then the Diablo, they're just nuts, So it was a close call between Ferrari and Lamborghini, and there's a couple of old brands when I go to these car shows like Duesenberg and stuff like that. I love them, but I think Ferrari, because if I chose my top 100 cars, there's probably going to be 10, 15 Ferraris in there. Ferrari F40 is a car that I would definitely want to have at some point. But the problem I've always had in the last 10 years is because these cars, I feel that I'm doing better every year financially, but I can't keep up with some of the percentage growths of some of the cars. So if you're earning 50 grand and then suddenly you're earning 80 grand and 100 grand a year, if the cars are going up from 300 grand to $1 million in the space of 3 years, it's like, well, how am I going to afford the £1 million car? And it was interesting actually, because I was speaking to the guys over at Joe Macari up at the Concourse of Elegance, and I was saying, look, you got this Lamborghini Miura here, and it's like 1.6 million. How do people afford that? Have people just give you cash? Because all the cars I've ever bought, I've always had the money in the bank. And I've just gone and said, here you go, here's a 30 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever the money is. I want to just buy it, so it's mine. And they said, no, to be fair, most people, even the super rich, they get a loan of 6 or 7%, 8% or whatever, and they just buy it and put 100 grand down or 50 grand down, and then they just pay the rest on finance.
I know people that do that at 10 different cars all at once. I know. Wow. There's a guy called Sam Moore. Do you know him? Right. Have you heard of him? No. There's a guy called I can't remember what his name is. His name's Sam, but he's TGTV. If you go TGTV, have a look at him. Right. He gets car finance, and he's got like a Ferrari F12. He's got a GT3 Porsche. He's got so many expensive cars. And I wondered how he did it, but he did a podcast recently about it and told everybody where to go and what to do. Now, with me, I've always had the money to buy a nice old Ferrari. Yeah. However, every time I go to do that, my wife will say to me, you know what, let's get a property, buy to let. So we did that. Second time came round, I want a baby now. So could we just put that in the bank just for a baby? I'm like, okay. Because I nearly bought a Mark II Jaguar a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It was only about 25,000. But back then, I wasn't earning too much money, so I'd saved up enough. And she said, no, she said, let's use that to buy a property and do this and do that. And then we can have some stuff done in the house and all that. So every time so now what I've done is I'm saving money for the house, money for another baby, money for a classic car just in case. So I'm just kind of trying to filter out the money as much as I can so that I can get what I want next. I sold I had a Porsche 924 Le Mans.
Nice.
Yeah, I bought one of them in 2015 and I sold it last year. And there was only about 120 of those made, black and white ones that were made. Beautiful car, absolutely stunning. Things started to fall off of it. And it was a balanced car to drive, almost 50-50 weight distribution. I think it was 60-40, but it was very close to having a really nice driving feel. The windows stopped working, the sunroof fell off, but I loved it. I used to drive to work in it 100 miles every day.
Yeah.
I just love that feeling of driving something with, how can I say? It was almost like going to work was like an endurance drive. Do you know what I mean? So, for example, one day...
Will you make it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. 35 degrees one day it was. It was summertime, 35 degrees. Both windows don't go down. Only the sunroof comes off. I was in traffic for 5 hours. The radio don't work, so I had me headset in one ear, listening to podcasts or doing stuff. There was no air conditioning. The clutch pedal was stiff as anything. There was no power steering, and I love that sort of motoring. And I used to get home. My wife used to say, "You stink of fuel." I was like, "Oh, do I? That's great." So she's like, "Why is that great? That shouldn't be great." Like, it's that sort of motoring that I like, and I'm looking for a project really. I want to build something. I want to make something myself. The ultimate dream is to design and manufacture my own car. Yeah. I've got the people around me to do it. I've got the skills to do it, but I haven't got the time at the moment to do it, or the finances. It's the finances, because as you well know, or you might not know or know, but building a car from scratch is quite expensive. So that's what I want to do. But I think what I might do is buy a 356 Porsche, either an old one, a really old one that needs completely stripping back, or I might get a Volkswagen Beetle chassis, cut it down and put a body on top of it and then start building it up. Because that way I can stop when I haven't got any cash. I can just stop. I don't have to continue the project. So let's see what happens. But next year is going to be an interesting year, I think.
You sound like you want to be a modern day Pagani.
I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought I've always thought that would be cool to be involved in something like that. But like you said, it's I suppose the closest that I can think of in this country is Noble, who obviously made a couple of nice cars. But I think with anything like that, you're either doing it because it's just something you love, and it's not about the finances. It's not about becoming a millionaire, billionaire, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to try and be a proper business, you've got to have something that's exceptional, and you've got to have something that has very good marketing. Because if you get your car in front of the right people and people say positive things about it, then people will buy it. I mean, the Porsche 911 has been so successful because it's an everyday supercar, and no car really has come close to pushing it off. I don't understand why a lot of these car companies, like if you look at the Aston Martin V8 and stuff like that, if your price point is roughly the same as the Porsche, why are people going to go away from the Porsche, which they know has 35, 40 years, however long it is, of history? why are they going to step away from that? So you need, like with TVR have come about again, haven't they?
Yeah.
With their new car.
What did you say, TVR?
Yeah.
I thought TVR had gone bust, no?
No, TVR got a new car that's coming out. Yeah. You know, but again, if you bring it in, I think the price point, don't quote me on it, I think it's 60, 70 grand again. So you're talking Porsche territory or Cayman territory. So you've got to have a car, and now the Audi Q8, I mean, you pick them up now for 30, 40 grand. But if you're going to spend 34 grand on a car, supercar, and you classify the R8 as a supercar, you're going to go for the R8 or you're going to go for a 911. And I still think most car petrol heads are going to go for the 911 because it's got the history and it's got the cachet and you know, and like most German things, they're bomb proof. And I know the Audi R8 is German as well, but you know, so it's one of those things. Maybe I was just thinking while we're talking, another time, maybe another podcast was. I'm intrigued in terms of the classic car market as to, you know, you're in your 40s odd, I'm in my 40s odd, okay, and I'm into cars massively. But when a lot of these cars, you go to the Concourse and they're from the 1920s and the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. Well, as every decade goes by, I've got a son and daughters that are 14 and 7 years old, and are they gonna ever desire a Ferrari F40? Because you know, I run a sales company, and when I've run that sales company, I've been hiring 20-year-olds. When I was 20-year-olds, I wanted to work hard, do sales. It was like a bit of Wolf of Wall Street. You know, I wanted to go hard, work hard, then go out and just get drunk and party. Yeah. But a lot of the generation today, they don't really drink a lot. And so they don't want to do that. So are the kids of today, the 10-year-olds, 20-year-olds, are they going to want these classic cars, or are they going to think, actually, do you know what, why would I want a petrol car? I want an electric car with a dashboard that lights up like my iPod. You know, on my iPad. And I get it. You know, I look at some of these cars now where, you know, the latest Honda that they've, you know, that's coming out, I think it's 27, 30 grand. It's a cool looking car, like mini-esque car. It's got a whole dash that goes right round of electronics. And it looks great. It looks great. But, you know, and for the generation of my kids growing up with Amazon, Netflix, instant gratification, that's probably going to appeal to them. Why do they want to get into a car and they have to pull the choke out? You know? And even me, when I look at old cars, like the old Rolls Royces and stuff like that, with all the chrome and the brass on it, and you think, and it got bits on the steering wheel, and you're thinking, oh my God, I wouldn't even know how to start this car up. You know, so even me, who's a car guy, you're going to have to get experience from the previous owners to all the quirkiness. And at some point, will they just become museum pieces? You know, and as a buyer of cars, I want all the prices to come down.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But then when you want to sell, it's the reverse, isn't it? You want the prices to be good.
I mean, if you get your son and daughter to knock about with you around the cars, and I mean, I don't know whether they come to shows, but I started to bring my son. He's now 3.5. I started to bring him when he was a baby to Concourse of Elegance, and my mate said to me, what are you bringing your baby for? You want to go there, look at the cars and relax, you know, and talk to other car enthusiasts. When you've got your baby hanging off of you really either don't get approached by people, or you kind of go around trying to change nappies and feed him and do all this sort of stuff. And you kind of waste quite a few hours in the day looking after the little one. But now what I'm seeing him do is he will see a car. For example, there was David Gandy's Jaguar XK120 at the show. And he saw it and he goes to me, Daddy, beautiful car. And I went, which one? He went, that one there. And it was nice. It was a nice feeling to have that he's looking at the older stuff still. And also there was a McLaren race car there. He went out. He was staring at it, and I thought, oh, that's good. He's into it. He's into the cars. I mean, he's nonno, or his granddad, as we say in English. He's kind of got his gene, I think, where I'll be downstairs in the garage doing something, and he's 3.5 now, and he picks up a drill and starts drilling things with it. I'm looking, I'm thinking, I probably didn't know what a drill was until well into my teens, probably. Yeah. Even though my old man was a mechanic for the army, British Army, I don't think I touched the tool until my teens, really. So I'm hoping that he gets that kind of love and passion for classic cars and clocks, the old clocks moving and
mechanical mind,
the mechanical mind.
Look, to be honest, look, I mean, it sounds like that's your brain. You're a designer, maybe that's your world, and father-in-law. So you'd assume genetically, there's probably that brain thought process is probably going to be similar. And secondly, I suppose, spending quality time with dad, whether it's daughters or sons, sometimes, they're the good memories. And because it was a memory at a car show or working on a car, they just fall into that passion, like Jodie Kidd and stuff like that. And you've got some of the other girls and boys, we see on TV. A lot of them, it's just they've either fallen into it, and I fell into it not because of anyone. It was just me. I just got a passion for it, and etc. etc. My all the girls in my family, no interest whatsoever.
Really?
No, not interested. Not interested in going to car shows. I suppose my wife, would maybe like to go to a car show because, like Salon Privé, because she's going to get a nice bit of wine and it's going to be a nice day out. But after about an hour, she's probably bored. She's like, well, we've looked at all the cars. I say, no, I haven't talked to lots of people. I want to go and talk to the owners, and I want to talk to the manufacturers. I want to hear what's going on.
Yeah. Do you ever talk to the cars? I know it's a silly question. Do you ever talk to the cars? Because I do.
No, I don't think I do, and I don't have names for the cars, and I don't call my cars he or she. Or any of that, really. I mean, I think the cars for me are, I look at them, the beauty, and I see good cars. Just like I don't have a motorbike, but I've been recently thinking about buying a Ducati, but it's just because of the looks, and I think from like anything, I was sort of reading one of the TV programs, a car guy who also restores, on TV, is Drew or something on Quest. And he was just talking about lots of these things are art, and I do agree. And if you look at a Pagani, for me, yes, a hypercar, but every single piece of that car is a piece of art. It is amazing. And I look at cars like that, and I say, well, actually, rather than buying £1 million piece of art that goes on the wall and just stays there, I'd rather buy £1 million car that I can hear the engine and drive it and look at it.
That's true.
It's more gripping for me.
Okay. So what's your 5-car garage? What would you have in there? Unlimited value.
Yeah, God. That is a hard question because I always struggle with top 10s, let alone top 5s.
Me too, yeah.
It's a difficult one. I think I'll probably have to go, put in the most beautiful car in my mind. I'd have to put that in, which is the Ferrari 250 GT SWB Berlinetta.
Yeah.
I think that's just, that and the Aston Martin DB4 Zagato are two of the most beautiful cars ever made, in my opinion.
Yes.
But I'd go for the Ferrari, and I wouldn't go for the Aston Martin in my top 5 just because I haven't got enough room to fit it in.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Ferrari for sure. You've got to put in arguably the best driver's car ever made by most people, which is a McLaren F1. I think that's got to go in, and a central driving position. I think this, for me, when I look at cars, it's about what I would like to own. I mean, if I'm talking about just wealth and someone gave me £1 gazillion, then most people would go, well, I'll buy a Ferrari GTO and spend 100 million on it and just say I've got one, but I'm not that sort of person. I just want cars that I want, and the money side of things is second. These are in no particular order, by the way. I think as a Formula One, not a Formula One expert or not massively into it because I think it's a bit processional these days.
Yeah.
But I would probably go for what I think is the best Grand Prix car ever made, or the most beautiful, and that is a Maserati 250F.
Nice.
I'd put that in
Very
there.
Nice. Very nice.
Because I think just, you know, you only get one life, and if I could drive, if you said to me, what car could I drive, and you've only got one car to choose, it's going to probably be that or the McLaren F1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just those sort of things.
Yeah.
I then put in the, you probably won't have heard of this one, but it appeared at the Windsor Concourse of Elegance. I can't remember what year it was, but it had to be probably 6 years ago now.
Yes.
There's a 1925 Rolls-Royce Phantom 1, and it's called the Jockey Coupe.
Yes, I have heard. Yeah, I've heard of it.
And basically, if you look it up on the web, it's just unreal. It's almost like something out of Thunderbirds, or, you know, it's just nuts. It's got circular doors.
Yeah. I did see that. Yes.
It's 20 feet long.
Yeah.
It's just bonkers. And there's only one of them ever made. Now, a lot of these coach-built cars, you know, that's the whole point. The rich and the wealthy thought, you know, how can I have something that's unique? And they got a coach builder to do something crazy. I mean, it probably would appeal to you because as a designer and someone probably into that sort of world, you know, you're seeing the creativity of someone's mind in life, in real, you know.
I mean, have you ever seen anyone take a flat sheet of metal and turn it into a beautiful wing? Have you ever watched it?
No, I've seen people doing it with cars, and I quite like Bad Chad. Is a TV program. It's some guy in Canada, and he makes cars out of everything. He just gets metal and he fabricates it. Really old school, and the cars he makes are just unique. And I think that I like that sort of mindset when I'm thinking about cars and people making things. I like to know that someone is building it themselves more than a manufacturing plant.
Yeah.
You know, because with all big businesses now, whether it's car manufacturers, plane manufacturers, anything, it's about volume and getting it out and selling as many of them as possible. Yeah. Whereas I quite like, you know, having a car or an item. You know, we've got quite a few bespoke pieces of furniture in our home where you've engaged with someone to actually make something for you, so you know that it's unique or rare or a one-off piece, because we only live once, so it's just something nice to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Anything handmade for me, I absolutely love, and that includes handmade watches, jewellery, furniture, the whole lot. So yeah, I mean, okay. So if you were to go on a road trip,
that was only 4, by the way.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah. Go on.
It's difficult, really, I suppose. I think if I was going to put my last one in, and there's so many to choose from, but I think I'd probably need to go for maybe something really old and really cool, like something like a Duesenberg, something like that. Yeah. You know, some of those Duesenbergs, and some of the coach work that they have. I love all the chrome. A lot of Mercedes cars have it as well. Yeah. You know, from sort of the war eras and stuff like that. You know, they have loads of chrome. And I like the big chrome pipes coming out of the car. Yeah. So maybe a Duesenberg. I saw one the other day. It was 1937. Was it 1937? No, 1935 SJ Legrand. And it was just amazing. But I mean, a lot of these cars, obviously, because Duesenberg was an American car, you get a lot of these cars appearing at concours events like Pebble Beach in the US and stuff like that. You don't get them that often in the UK, but obviously, because we did live in a global world where people could just travel quite easily, you get a lot of these cars coming over for concours events. So I think I'd like to have something from all sort of many different eras. I think there's nothing really that's going in today's era, only because I just don't get the feel for them as much. I mean, if I was buying any Ferraris, I'm not really into the new Ferraris. No. Quite like the 308 and the Testarossa. I know they're probably more of a pig to drive, and I just think they're more honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, the cars that I do like the best are the Paganis. You know, if I could afford a Pagani, I would definitely want one, because I just think every aspect of those cars are beautiful. You know, whether it's the interior, whether it's a gear shifter, whether it's a steering wheel, just everything is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you could go on a road trip anywhere with anyone, dead or alive,
Yeah.
where would you go and who would you take with you?
How big is my car? Can I take a minibus?
You could take what you want.
Well, I think, to be fair, I think I would probably want to do a trip around across the United States. I think that's on every person's wish list.
Yeah, on mine too.
To do, you know, east to west coast or west to east coast, and do a little bit of the Route 66. We all know that the road doesn't exist in its entirety anymore. But and I think when I was thinking about this, I was thinking there's so many people, but the people that intrigue me most are the people who've been under the most stress, pressure, or had to make decisions and had a hard life, you know, or through hard times. So again, I'd go for a bit of a weird mix, really. And I got a 4 or 5 that I sort of highlighted. I think Winston Churchill would definitely be on there.
Yeah.
I just think for his wit, his wisdom, his thought process, he was a great orator and came up with loads of quick-witted comebacks.
Yeah.
Not that it's all political, but again, I'd have Margaret Thatcher on there, because I just think, you know, to be in charge of a country for 10 plus years is a feat that not many people around the globe can achieve. And she went through some difficult times and had to, in effect, annoy a lot of people, because she had to change the whole of the UK and the way that we were working and the way that we were living. Gandhi, which is a bit of a weird one, but I just think I like to have balance in my life.
Yeah.
And I think if you have strong personalities and people who have, you know, a certain way of thinking, sometimes it's good to have the yin and the yang. Mm-hmm. And I think Gandhi would give good perspective. And also would be just nice to, although, you know, if you look at Winston Churchill, I think he was born with a silver spoon, and Gandhi's probably the opposite. So I think it's always good to have that sort of perspective. And then from a, I suppose more, I'm not into war and I'm not into battles of any, I'm a pacifist, but I think it would be nice to have met someone like, I was toying up between Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan, and I think Alexander the Great would probably be who I'd go for, because I'm a bit more into the Greek and Roman sort of history than I am Mongolian. So I suppose they're mine. And if I go for car people, I'd have gone for Fangio or Enzo Ferrari, someone like that, just to have a chat. But I think if I was going to narrow it down to 2 or 3, it'd probably have to be, I'd have to put Richard Pryor in as well.
Okay.
Only because he was blunt, he was rude, he was in your face, and he was just, every word that came out of his mouth was funny. And I just think if you had a car with Gandhi in it and Winston Churchill and Richard Pryor in it, it would be just chaos.
That'd be chaos. I'll tell you, it sounds like you're going for an extreme gumball event. You know, all these people together, just driving across America. I'm just picturing it now.
I'd have a tow bar on the car, and I'd have a little not a caravan, because I hate caravans, but I'd have a little sort of pod in the back, and whoever was out of order or causing trouble, they go in the pod.
Oh dear, that's funny. Yeah. Okay, so last question. I'm going to let you go. Okay. Which car brand or bike brand would you revive if you were to reinvest in the company, and why?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I think I originally thought Di Tommaso, but obviously, if you know much about a Di Tommaso brand, Italian brand, they were involved and they owned Moto Guzzi at one point. But back in, I think it was 2014, they came out and someone bought the brand, so that's already been done. And they came out with the P72, at Goodwood a couple of years back, which was lovely. Again, outside of my price bracket, unfortunately. So I think you mentioned them earlier on. It's between Duesenberg, I think, and Bizzarini. So Bizzarini made one of the best cars, or one of my favourite cars, the GT Strada 5300, which is looks like a mint muscle car.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact height, but it looks like 40-inch height, like sort of the GT40 from Ford.
Yeah.
It looks lovely, sounds
Beautiful.
lovely, just lovely. But I think if I was trying to make money, then I would probably have to go for Duesenberg, which owned Cord and was part of 2 or 3 brands. But Duesenberg, because it was, I think anyone who's into cars knows about cars, and I'd never heard of the brand 10, 15, 20 years ago. But I think if you're going to revive a brand, you revive a brand in the USA with 250 million people compared to the UK of 60 million. You've got a bigger market. Duesenberg, still to this day, you hear Jay Leno say it's a doozy, and that means that it's a beautiful car. You know, it's an amazing car. So I think if you go with Duesenberg, and then you're trying to revive, almost like what Volkswagen did with Rolls-Royce, you try and revive the brand, and I think Duesenberg would be a brand to revive. But I think which is it? Hispano Suiza has got a new car coming out. So again, someone's tried to revive that brand. How that will go? I mean, Hispano Suiza, like Duesenberg's, were the most expensive cars you could buy.
Are they Spanish? Are they Spanish?
I don't know exactly if they're Spanish or not. But again, there were cars manufactured. They're either Spanish or Mexican. It's that sort of Latin feel. But again, massive car sellers in America. And if you can make it in America, like with music, being a musician, if you make it in America with 5 times as many people, you're gonna be okay.
I always ask my father, why did he come to this country from Cyprus instead of going to America? Much more chances. And he just said he got an invite from the Queen, basically, to come in.
Really?
And he still got that invite.
Wow. How come?
I don't know. I think there was some British colonisation going on around that time.
Right.
I think part of the deal was that they would accept so many Turkish Cypriots from Cyprus to come to the UK. And my dad came in the mid-50s, I'd say.
Yeah.
So for some unknown reason, I don't know, to this day, he didn't do the Turkish army, his service with the Turkish army. He did it with the British army.
Right.
Which came to haunt him when he was about 40, 45, because the Turkish Cypriot army came knocking in our house and said, "We need you for service," and he had to pay a lot of money to get out of that. Right. He said he'd done a British service, so why would you want to do the Turkish service? But it was my mum as well. She was invited here by the Queen. Yeah, she still got the letter. So
cool.
Quite a cool little letter from the Queen. But who knows if she wrote it? We don't know, do we?
Her Royal Highness. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Okay, so listen, I'm going to finish this podcast here. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
A lot more fun than I thought it'd be.
Charming.
No, because I do get, sometimes I get people on here that can the pre-interview talk that we had, you get feeling from that if it's going to be a good one or a bad one, and I was kind of in the middle. But I've really enjoyed your company. I've really enjoyed your time. I think if you just give us where we can find you and what you're promoting or doing in the next few months or next 6 months. So where can people find you?
Yeah, fine. So the website's mycarheaven.com. Mm-hmm. On social media, it's pretty simple, just mycarheaven, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We try to put new content on 3 or 4 times a week. What I would suggest to anyone who's interested in classic cars, supercars, or hypercars, the whole website's about beautiful cars, iconic, cool cars, you know, and we talk about everything from concepts to news, etc. But we try to be unique in terms of what we're doing. I think a reason to subscribe to the newsletter, and we send one out every fortnight, we're currently redoing that as we speak, is that we run free competitions where you can win items, car-related products, and we try to get complimentary tickets to every car show in the UK. So that, you know, over the years, we've probably sent, you know, 70, 80, 90 people to all of the car shows we've described today. We're going to try and start getting tickets to Goodwood Revival, Festival of Speed. We've done Silverstone Classic. We've done Concourse of Elegance. Again, we gave 5 pairs of tickets away this year. So for those on a bit of a budget, or anyone who doesn't want to buy a ticket and get a pair of tickets for free, well, follow the website, and we're doing that. We've got a couple of competitions running now where we're giving away a definitive book on the Audi Quattro. And also coming up to Christmas, it's probably relevant, we're giving away a breathalyzer that we're testing worth £150. You know, cool. And all we got to do is go on, answer the question, and then you're in the hat as a potential to win a gift for free, just for writing a comment or so. So so we're just enjoying ourselves. That's the whole point of My Car Heaven, just talking about car stuff with other car people.
Same here. I mean, somebody said to me, "Oh, why do you want to do this?" And I just said, I just enjoy talking to people about car stuff. I mean, obviously, if this wasn't COVID-19, I probably would have met you somewhere, or you could have come to me, or I could have come to you, whatever. And it's always part of the fun of meeting people, seeing what people are doing, and you know, just having that feeling, that contact, you know. But we're doing it over Zoom, which has been great. I've had fun. I hope you have too, and I hope to do it again soon. We'll have to schedule another podcast in, and you touched on some subjects that I want to delve into more, but obviously we run out of time now. So look, Will, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll chat soon. Okay, have a good weekend.
You take care. All right,
Take care. Best. Thank you. Cheers, mate. Bye.